Welcome to the debate. When a massive rocket launches into space, the powerful booster at the bottom is what pushes the whole ship up.
Right, up into the stars.
Yeah. But the moment the ship finally reaches orbit, that booster is just attached. It's dropped and, left to burn up in the atmosphere.
Because keeping that massive empty rocket attached would actually just drag the spaceship down.
Exactly. It would ruin the entire mission. So today, we are looking at a legendary historical figure who, well, he was treated exactly like that booster rocket.
It really is one of the most intense historical choices we could possibly discuss. You have a man standing at the absolute peak of his power, holding a massive army, and he's forced to choose between absolute power and personal survival on one side, and, well, total loyalty on the other.
Now, our entire conversation today comes directly from a specific video. It is called Episode 6, Divide Land or Die.
Right, it's a brilliant breakdown of the history.
It really is, and we want to heavily emphasize that this analysis comes from an idea for hot, hut, 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 with the design by hot, hut, hut, hut. The creator produced this entire video themselves, building the narrative and the visual layouts we are exploring today.
And the story focuses on a really brilliant general named Han Shin. He has just conquered the northern territories. His army is completely undefeated.
Yeah, but then his advisor comes to him with a terrifying warning. He tells Han Shin that if he goes back to his leader Liu Bang, the war will be won, but Han Shin will be killed.
The advisor uses a phrase that is, really echoed through history. He says, "When the rabbit is caught, the hunting dog is boiled."
Wow.
Yeah, it's brutal. But the advisor also gives Han Shin a way out. A strategy to divide the land into 3 separate kingdoms, a plan that would make Han Shin a king and save his own life.
Yet, Han Shin refuses, and I will be arguing today that his refusal was a triumph of moral integrity. He stayed loyal out of pure gratitude.
And I will argue that his refusal was a tragic failure of political realism. He had a perfectly logical alternative, and he threw his own life away for a naive feeling.
I think people are just entirely too quick to call Han Shin a fool for this.
Well, you have to admit his choice looks bad on paper.
Maybe, but think about where Han Shin started. Before Liu Bang came along, Han Shin was, well, he was a nobody. The enemy leader, Shang Yu, had completely treated him like dirt.
Right, he had zero respect there.
Exactly. Xiang Yu scorned him. He gave him no future. But Liu Bang did the exact opposite. Liu Bang saw his potential, gave him the golden seal of a commander, and actually trusted him.
Okay, but
True loyalty means standing by the person who recognized your worth. But more importantly, it means standing by them even when you suddenly have the power to betray them. Anyone can be loyal when they are weak.
I understand the desire to romanticize his choice. I really do. But in the harsh environment of a massive war, gratitude is a fatal weakness.
I just don't see it as a weakness.
But you are completely ignoring the chilling warning from his advisor, the hunting dog warning.
Right, when the rabbit is caught.
Exactly. When the rabbit is caught, the hunting dog is boiled. Let's unpack why that warning is the absolute core of this historical event. Think about the nature of the animal. A hunting dog is trained for violence.
Okay.
It is aggressive and dangerous. While the wild rabbit is running around destroying the farmer's crops, the farmer loves the dog. He feeds it the best meat.
Oh, I see where you were going with this.
Right? The second the rabbit is dead, the farmer looks at this violent, aggressive animal sitting in his house. The farmer doesn't see a hero anymore, he sees a threat.
So you are saying Liu Bang is the farmer in this scenario?
Precisely. In the political world, a victorious general with an army of hardened killers is that dangerous dog. Liu Bang used Han Shin's military genius to catch the rabbit.
Meaning the enemy leader, Xiang Yu.
Yes. But once the war ends, Liu Bang doesn't have an enemy to point Han Shin at anymore. The very tool that saved the king during the war becomes the king's biggest nightmare during peacetime.
That is a brilliant breakdown of a king's paranoia. I will give you that.
Because it's the truth. The advisor understands this iron-lawed power. Once Han Shin finishes conquering the north, Liu Bang will look at this powerful general and realize the dog has sharper teeth than he does. Execution is a political guarantee.
But that completely strips away Han Shin's humanity. A dog doesn't have a choice. A dog doesn't understand right and wrong. Han Shin was a human being who could make a moral choice.
A choice to die, apparently.
If staying alive is the absolute only measure of success, then sure, betraying your leader makes sense. But if Han Shin turns around and steals a massive chunk of the country from Liu Bang just to save his own skin, doesn't he become just as bad as the people who scorned him?
Not necessarily.
I think he would. He would prove that no one in this world can be trusted and that every relationship is just a cold, calculated transaction.
But you're treating this like a simple, binary choice between pure loyalty and certain death. He had a third option right in front of him.
The three-part plan.
Yes, and from a purely strategic standpoint, it was brilliant geopolitics. We really have to look closely at the plan his advisor presented, the plan to divide the entire region into 3 kingdoms.
How does drawing new lines on a map actually solve his problem, though?
Well, we need to understand how the geography makes this work. Picture the map of the region. You have Liu Bang in the center, exhausted and running low on supplies.
Right.
You have the enemy, Xiang Yu, in the south, and you have Han Shin holding the vast northern territories with a fresh, undefeated army. The advisor says keep the north for yourself. This creates a perfect 3-way standoff.
Why is 3 the magic number here? Why not 2?
Because 2 powers will always fight until one is destroyed. But if you have 3 powers, nobody dares to make the first move.
Oh, I get it. Because if 2 fight, the third one swoops in.
Exactly. If Liu Bang attacks Shang Yu, both of their armies get weak. Then Han Shin can just sweep down from the north and crush whoever survives. It creates a permanent hesitation.
Okay.
The advisor wasn't just telling Han Shin to steal land. He was offering a strategic mechanism to force peace. Han Shin becomes an equal king, removes the need for Liu Bang to execute him, and stops the endless bloodshed.
You make the 3-part plan sound like this clean, simple deal. Just draw a new line on a map and everyone is happy. But how did Han Shin get the power to draw that line in the first place? He didn't build that northern army from scratch.
He commanded them to victory.
But they weren't his troops. Let me give you a better analogy for what you are describing. Imagine a nation is fighting a terrible war.
Okay.
The president gives a naval captain the country's entire Pacific fleet. The president pays for the ships, feeds the thousands of sailors, and gives the captain the legal authority to fight.
Tracking so far.
The captain sails out, wins a massive victory, and takes control of an entire ocean. Now, according to your logic, it is perfectly smart for that captain to say, I'm keeping these ships. This ocean is my independent country now.
Well,
You call that a smart geopolitical compromise. I call it a massive mutiny. It is pure theft from the person who trusted you with the ships.
okay, but let's fix your analogy to match the actual history. What if the president of that country has a well-known, documented history of executing his successful captains the second they return to the docks?
Well,
Right. If you know the president is going to put a bullet in your head the moment you give the ships back, then yes, you keep the ships. Mutiny is the only logical choice when obedience means certain death.
I just don't think it was that guaranteed.
The advisor is begging Han Shin to look at the reality of the man he serves. You simply cannot have true moral loyalty to a leader who views you only as a disposable weapon.
But you are assuming that taking the 3-part plan was actually a safe bet for Han Shin. I think that is a massive strategic blind spot on your end.
How is it a blind spot? He has the biggest army.
Let's really think about the mechanics of trust here. If Han Shin takes your advice and betrays Liu Bang, he instantly becomes a known traitor. He breaks the ultimate rule of loyalty.
He establishes himself as an independent power.
No, he puts a giant target on his own back. If you are Shang Yu down in the south and you watch Han Shin steal his own master's army, do you trust him to honor a peace treaty?
Probably not, but
Of course not. You realize he is a snake? I would argue that a world with 3 kings where one of them is a known traitor who just stole his army is completely unstable.
so you think they would gang up on him?
Yes, it is highly likely that Liu Bang and Shang Yu would pause their own war, look at the thief up north, and decide to crush Han Shin together. Betraying the man who gave you everything doesn't guarantee your safety. It just makes you the enemy of everyone.
That is a fascinating way to look at it, I'll admit, but let's compare the actual odds.
Okay,
If he stays up north, he has a massive army, highly defensible terrain, and a fighting chance to establish a dynasty. If he goes back to Liu Bang and hands over his weapons, his chance of death is 100%.
I still think that's cynical.
The history tells us exactly what happens. He stays loyal, he goes back, and the hunting dog is boiled. Giving up your only leverage to hand absolute victory to someone who will eventually kill you is not a grand, honorable sacrifice. It is the ultimate tragedy.
But look at what his sacrifice actually achieved. By remaining loyal, he allowed the country to become one.
At the cost of his life.
Yes, but without Han Shin conquering the north and returning that power to Liu Bang, the country would have remained fractured and bleeding for generations. He traded his personal survival for the completion of the mission.
That's a dark way to view a person's life.
Returning to the metaphor from the beginning of our show, the booster rocket knows it is going to burn up, but it still pushes the ship into orbit because without it, the ship crashes. Han Shin was the booster rocket that put Liu Bang's empire into orbit, ending a devastating war.
But a human being is not a piece of metal. A human being has a right to live and protect themselves. Han Shin did all the heavy lifting, he fought all the battles, and his reward was a quiet execution.
It is definitely harsh.
The fact that his loyalty sealed his fate is a harsh lesson in the dangers of trusting a ruthless leader. When his advisor told him that unifying the realm would get him discarded, it wasn't just a warning, it was a prediction.
Yeah,
Han Shin walked into his own destruction with his eyes wide open, completely blinded by a feeling of gratitude that the other side simply did not share. In the world of politics and war, cold logic has to rule. If you forget that, you end up exactly like Han Shin, victorious but dead.
we have explored some deep and complex divisions here today. As we reach the end of our discussion, I want to make sure we clearly recap the journey we just took.
Good idea, there are a lot of moving parts.
To summarize what we've discussed today, Han Shin had a massive, victorious army in the north. His advisor told him to divide the land into 3 kingdoms to save his own life, warning that his leader, Liu Bang, would get rid of him once the war was over.
Right.
However, Han Shin remembered that Liu Bang was the only one who believed in him when everyone else treated him poorly. Because of that deep gratitude, Han Shin stayed loyal and refused to rebel. This loyalty helped Liu Bang finally win the war and unite the lands. But just as the advisor predicted, it also cost Han Shin his life.
That is a perfect summary of the events. And no matter which side you take in this debate, whether you value the logic of survival or the honor of loyalty, we both have to acknowledge the incredible depth of this historical scenario.
Absolutely. The events we explored today show us a window into a moment where one single man's choice literally shaped the future of an entire continent. We both agree that Han Shin was the ultimate deciding factor in this massive war, even though we fundamentally disagree on whether his choice was the right one.
It is a story that forces you to ask hard questions about your own values. Would you be willing to be the booster rocket?
Exactly. Would you push the ship into orbit knowing you will burn up in the atmosphere just to see the mission succeed? Or would you detach early, take control of your own fate, and let the ship figure out its own path?
It's a tough call.
We encourage everyone listening to really think about what you would do in Han Shin's place. When you hold absolute power in your hands, do you choose the honor of gratitude or the reality of survival? Thank you for joining us on The Debate.